Fallout 4. What went wrong? Now that's a pretty gutsy statement to make about a game that sold 12 million copies on its release date, received a 9.5 score from IGN, and maintains nearly 17,000 concurrent players even 10 years after release. Yet this Bethesda game divides fan opinions like no other. Starfield and Fallout 76 are often blamed for damaging Bethesda's reputation, but the real turning point was Fallout 4. When it launched in 2015, many expected it to sweep the Game of the Year awards. After all, Bethesda had dominated the awards with Oblivion, Fallout 3 and Skyrim, but Fallout 4 didn't land with the same critical acclaim, and that year it was The Witcher 3 that walked away with the prize instead. This was a huge moment in gaming, but something even more important happened. Before Fallout 4, I could sink hundreds of hours into Bethesda's worlds without ever getting tired. Their games kept me up late, constantly exploring, constantly hooked. The longer you played, the better the games got. We called this the Bethesda magic, something no other games could replicate. But with Fallout 4, something changed. Around the 30-hour mark, it hit me. I wasn't having fun. And sure, some people may say, well, 30 hours is still great value, but that misses the point. The magic Bethesda games were known for, the magic only they seemed to be able to create, just wasn't there. On paper, Fallout 4 had everything their earlier games offered: an open world, dungeons, side quests, factions, plus better graphics, smoother gameplay, a larger map, and more weapon variety. It should have been a bigger, better Bethesda experience and natural progression, yet somehow it wasn't. And in this video, I want to talk about why. Why does Fallout 4 divide fans so much? So let's get into it, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. So the first place to start is the change of direction from Bethesda. So prior to Fallout 4, they were known for making RPGs. This is a genre where players take on the role of a character whose abilities are defined by detailed stats and progression systems. Combat is typically slow-paced and strategic, requiring thoughtful decision-making, careful resource management, and planning rather than fast reflexes, making every choice feel meaningful. For example, Baldur's Gate 3 showcases this style perfectly, with deliberate turn-based battles, deep character stats, and choices that meaningfully shape every encounter and storyline. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 follows the same philosophy, just a little bit more action-y. Earlier Bethesda titles, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Fallout 3, borrowed this blueprint as well, with Fallout 3 at times feeling almost turn-based thanks to its VAT system. In fact, the original Fallout games were turn-based. They also had players allocate points to individual stats, giving real weight to every choice, and their quest decisions carried meaningful consequences. This was the audience that they catered to, the RPG faithfuls, until Skyrim shifted the design entirely, trading depth for simplicity. Strategic combat became more hack and slash, and leveling moved away from deliberate stat allocation to basic perk points. The game was certainly more shallow than Bethesda's earlier RPGs, but its open world exploration and dungeon design were outstanding. Where it lacked in depth, it excelled in sheer scope. By this point, players wanted Bethesda to keep Skyrim's vast world, dense dungeons and abundance of side quests, but build upward with deeper systems, not just continue expanding outward in scale. Fallout 4 decided to copy the Skyrim model, but with even more accessibility, even more streamlined. Let's break this down, starting with the combat. Fallout 4 completely changed how combat felt compared to Fallout 3. Fallout 3's combat was clunky, slow, and heavily reliant on the VAT system, and that was exactly why many RPG fans liked it. It wasn't designed to be a smooth shooter. It was a stat-driven system where your player's skills mattered more than your aim. Whether you hit something wasn't just about lining up your shot, it depended on your character build, your weapon stats, your perks, and your level. In other words, your decisions mattered more than your reflexes. Fallout 4 moved in the opposite direction. It introduced far more polished gunplay, tighter controls, faster combat, and shooting that felt closer to a first-person shooter like Destiny or Call of Duty. This shift made the game more accessible for general audiences, but it came at a cost. Players who loved Fallout 3 and New Vegas for their RPG identity felt that Fallout 4's combat no longer rewarded stats and planning. Instead, it rewarded quick reactions and good aim. Perks mattered less. Accuracy mattered more. The game pushed you to play like an action shooter rather than a strategic RPG, and for many longtime fans, this stripped away a core part of what made Fallout feel unique. In short, Fallout 4's combat was better as a shooter, but worse as an RPG. Enemies were scattered everywhere in Fallout 4, and nearly every building was packed with automatically hostile mobs. In many RPGs, you can choose who to ally with, avoid fights, or approach encounters strategically, but Fallout 4 rarely gave you that option. Unlike previous Fallout games, where faction-controlled locations would allow negotiation and strategy, Fallout 4's interiors mostly existed as enemy-filled combat arenas. The game shifted from an RPG to a looter-shooter. Enter a building and clear every enemy, move on to the next. Shoot first, ask questions never. That's a good shooter design, but a poor RPG one. Plus, everything scaled to your level, and as a result of this design, character progression felt meaningless. In Fallout New Vegas, Deathclaws were some of the hardest enemies in the game. To kill one, you needed to level up, acquire strong armor, find a powerful weapon, and plan your approach. They were an endgame enemy. Trying to fight one early on meant instant death. Finally becoming strong enough to defeat one was a genuine payoff that reinforced your progression. This is notable in all major RPGs, the same with Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's about leveling up and getting that payoff that once you do level up to a strong enough level, you can see the clear progress. You feel like the work you've put in is paying off. Fallout 4 undercut that feeling immediately. Within the first 20 minutes, the player is handed power armor and a minigun, then easily defeats a Deathclaw. This moment highlights just how far the series drifted from RPG design towards action shooter spectacle. That sense of earning your power was gone. The leveling system reinforced this shift. Fallout 3 and New Vegas used skill points and perks with a level cap of 30. Every level up forced meaningful decisions. Invest in persuasion or combat, specialize in melee or rifles. Every playthrough felt different because your build actually mattered. Fallout 4 removed the level cap and replaced skill points with an unlimited perk chart. Without restrictions, players could eventually unlock everything, becoming a jack of all trades with no real need to commit to a build. With no cap, no specialization, and no risk in decision making, the sense of progression and role-playing, the core of an RPG, was effectively erased. You never felt like your character grew. You felt the same at level 100 as you did at level 1, and the new gear system almost made leveling entirely redundant. Unlike Fallout 3 and New Vegas, where loot and equipment were mostly static and tied to character progression, Fallout 4 introduced the legendary system. Enemies could drop weapons and armor with random modifiers, like extra damage, elemental effects, or stat boosts, meaning your loot was often more powerful than standard gear, and sometimes came with unique abilities. Now on paper, this sounded exciting, but in practice, it further flattened progression. Powerful gear could appear early in the game, removing the sense of earning strength over time. By handing out high-level overpowered equipment freely, Fallout 4 made every player feel strong from the start, which undercut the careful planning and strategic progression that defined earlier Fallout RPGs. In the end, Fallout 4's streamlined combat, simplified progression, and focus on action over strategy signaled a clear break from Bethesda's RPG roots, and many longtime fans felt the depth and identity of the series was left behind. This was also reflected in the game's writing. Now, although Bethesda has never been known for strong writing, I would say that Fallout 3 featured some of the best side quests, prioritizing quality over quantity, with only 19 true side quests. Each offered strong plot lines, interesting characters, and meaningful decisions that could dramatically change outcomes. The Tenpenny Tower quest perfectly showcases this. A ghoul seeks entry, and you can kill him, help them massacre residents, or negotiate a compromise, each choice carrying consequences and moral complexity. Even the compromise has consequences. Return later and you'll find the humans are dead, leaving you to decide how to react. There's no clear winning outcome. Every ending feels morally complex, reflecting the brutal wasteland. It also changes that part of the world permanently, giving weight to your choices. Fallout New Vegas continued this tradition. In the Beyond the Beef quest, you can free a kidnapped son, sacrifice a companion, expose the casino, or manipulate events, with 8 different endings, of which all are different. No specific outcome feels like the perfect ending, just a lesser evil. This type of morally complex adult writing is a hallmark of the best RPGs, from Baldur's Gate 3 to The Witcher 3. These quests also take advantage of the player stat allocation. In the first quest in New Vegas, you need to recruit townsfolk to defend Goodsprings, but each requires a high level in each skill. Barter, explosive, sneak. This shows you 2 things. Every skill matters and you can't do everything. Your build opens some doors and closes others. So you have side quests with deep mature writing, decision making with different outcomes, and options that utilize player skills. Less quests, but more replayability. Fallout 4, by contrast, prioritized quantity over quality. Its writing was simplistic and cartoonish, with one-dimensional characters. Raider leaders were just evil because they were just evil, and side quests reduced to repetitive fetch or kill objectives. Unlike Fallout 3 and New Vegas, which offered multiple ways to approach quests, Fallout 4 removed meaningful choices, making every mission feel rushed or identical. It was either go kill X person or go collect X item. Where stat-based dialogue checks helped give Fallout 3 and New Vegas' side quests more depth and replay value, without this, Fallout 4 could only offer basic linear experiences. Every quest felt the same as a result. And then we have the worst offender, the Radiant quest design. So prior to Skyrim, every side quest within a Bethesda game was handwritten. Each was different. Skyrim introduced the Radiant quests, which were procedurally generated objectives like go here, kill that, which would never end. Players could pick them up at taverns or from factions, creating endless mini-tasks. But Skyrim had 200 handwritten side quests as well, and these Radiant quests only made up about 5% of the game's content. It served as optional extras for those who had already explored the world, complementing rather than replacing the main handcrafted content. It was a bonus feature, not a replacement. Fallout 4 flipped the tables, with the majority of side quests in the game being procedurally generated, and the handcrafted work taking a back seat. As a result, quests felt repetitive and forgettable. Fans of deep choice-driven RPGs were disappointed to find most of Fallout 4's missions had little story, a single linear objective, and followed the same predictable formula. Starfield leaned into this even further, but the fact remains that Bethesda wanted to give players more to do without actually giving them more to do. Deep complex side quests were replaced with procedural generated quests, which often repeated themselves, which is a far cry to the design of quests in the previous Fallout entries. And then there is the main story, which was seen as overly simplistic and lacking the depth and moral complexity of previous entries. The central narrative revolves around finding your kidnapped son, which gives the game a personal hook, but the plot itself is linear, predictable, and largely unaffected by player choice. Unlike Fallout 3 or New Vegas, where factions, dialogue, and decisions could dramatically alter the course of the story, Fallout 4's major events play out almost the same way, regardless of your actions. Combined with one-dimensional characters and clear-cut good versus evil conflicts, the main story felt shallow, leaving longtime fans craving the branching narratives and tough moral dilemmas that had defined the series. And then we have the simplified factions and the player reputation systems. In Fallout 3, the karma system tracked your moral choices, affecting NPC interactions, dialogue, and events, letting you shape who your character became. Fallout New Vegas replaced this with a faction reputation system. Your actions influenced 12 different groups, often forcing mutually exclusive choices, like siding with the NCR or Caesar's Legion. This meant your actions carried real weight and it felt like the world reacted to it. If you massacred a town, Fallout 3 would give you bad karma, meaning people began to fear you. If you wiped out an NCR base in Fallout New Vegas, you'd earn respect from Caesar's Legion, but you'd be vilified by the NCR. This constant feedback from the world to your action made it feel alive. Fallout 4 removed both of these aspects completely, meaning there was no reputation or faction system at all. As a result, no matter what actions you take in the world, nothing seems to matter. You could wipe out a town and people wouldn't react. You could massacre one faction and not only would a rival faction not care, but the same one you just attacked would welcome you back with open arms as if nothing happened. This ruins immersion and makes the game feel surface level. And then we have the factions themselves. In New Vegas, you must choose between siding with the NCR or Caesar's Legion, and your choice affects quests, interactions, and outcomes. To experience everything, multiple playthroughs are required, as not everything is visible in a single run. In Fallout 4, you can interact with all 4 factions and stay on good terms with each. There's no risk of upsetting them. The Brotherhood hates simps, but the Railroad protects simps, yet you can work for both without consequence. You can see everything in a single playthrough, but these choices feel meaningless, and restarting the game doesn't change the experience or your connection to your character. In Morrowind and Oblivion, you could kill any NPC, which drastically changes the experience. You can kill Caesar in New Vegas, which wipes out the opportunity to work with them. You can shoot the president of the NCR, ending that faction questline. You can do this with every faction in New Vegas and Morrowind. Again, this gives players massive freedom to decide how they want this playthrough to go and what type of person they'll be. In Fallout 4, most NPCs are invincible. Bethesda went from play your way to you're playing it wrong. Whereas in most RPGs, including Bethesda's older titles, they encourage you to forge your own path, in Fallout 4 the path is already lined up for you and they will not let you deviate in any way. As Fallout 4 doesn't have any of these reputation systems or interactions, nothing feels like it matters. It all feels pointless and that your actions don't make a difference. And the hallmark of a good RPG is exactly the opposite, with the best RPGs being judged on how much player freedom there is and how often the game reacts to it. Finally, the faction questlines are incredibly short. In Oblivion, in order to join the Mages Guild, you had to travel across the map and earn a certificate from each guild. In the Dark Brotherhood, you had to assassinate many unique targets to get a membership, which got more complex as you went up the ranks. These questlines were all long and detailed. You felt like you were part of that group and one of them. You got to know these people and felt like you were progressing in terms of your rank. Whereas most factions in Fallout 4 only contain a handful of named NPCs, with the majority being bland and adding nothing. The questlines were not only basic, but also incredibly short. Fallout 4's Brotherhood of Steel questline only had a handful of quests. I remember thinking, is that it? It was short, linear, and over in a flash. A good faction questline with ranking wasn't there, but you know what was? Radiant quests galore. Bring me documents, bring me holotapes, clear the ghouls out from X location. Overall, Fallout 4's factions were weakly written, offered less freedom, fewer quests, and no reputation system, making their existence almost redundant. There were factions in the game on paper, but they weren't really factions, they were just hubs to collect Radiant quests from. And then we have the dialogue and decision making. In previous Fallout games like 3 and New Vegas, the player had multiple decisions they could take which changed the outcome, which also used stat-based skill checks and wrote out text. Fallout 4 changed this approach to 4 options across the board, providing only vague options to choose from. Funnily enough, often when you picked an option as the player, it would say something totally different, which showcased the errors with this design, but there was a bigger problem. Remember when I said Fallout 4 offered less freedom? Well, now they have to give the players 4 options to choose from without it really making a difference. Look at the example on my screen now. This is the same option, phrased 4 different ways. It is the illusion of choice and often makes no difference no matter which you pick. For example, when confronting Kellogg, no matter which option you pick, threaten him, demand your son, or even try and befriend him, the result is always the same, a gunfight. Unlike Fallout 3 or New Vegas, where your decisions could meaningfully alter relationships and outcomes, Fallout 4 forces a predetermined path, limiting true player freedom. They just give the illusion of choice, but nothing will actually change. When you compare all of this to the best RPGs, or even Bethesda's previous work, you can see where the issue lies. Less freedom, less quests, weaker factions, and repetitive objectives. It is a downgrade in every way possible. And finally, we have the open world structure. Now, credit where it's due. It's massive, beautiful, and filled with diverse dungeons and locations. In terms of sheer scope, Fallout 4 easily matches Skyrim. I would argue that Fallout 4 has some of the best level design, with cities feeling dense, stairs leading up to rooftops, and dungeons that leave an impression. Whereas Skyrim reused a lot of assets to provide a lot of their dungeons, Fallout 4 improved this aspect greatly. As far as level design goes, I would argue it is possibly the best open world Bethesda have made, but other issues arise. One of my favourite parts of playing a Bethesda game is visiting the cities. Oblivion and Skyrim both had 9. Each had their own aesthetics, residents and businesses you could visit. But my favourite part was entering a new city, speaking to locals and receiving tons of side quests for that town. Honestly, both of these games thrive because of their settlements, and if you take them away, the game would feel a lot more empty. It made the world feel alive and gave it diversity. It also added a life simulation aspect, as the player could stay at inns, eat at restaurants and purchase property, a break from the chaos outside the town walls. Fallout 4 saw a massive reduction in this regard, with only 2 proper towns you could visit. This greatly limited that simulation aspect, meaning most of the world was hostile, but they did add something else: settlement building. With over 37 unlockable areas, players would unlock a plot of land that they could build upon. The pattern to unlock these was simple: speak to the people there, do a procedurally generated quest for them, and then unlock the ability to build on their land. Great storytelling. Anyway, since Bethesda couldn't be bothered building any more than 2 towns, they allowed the players to do it. Many players enjoy the settlement building feature, as it sparks creativity and allows impressive creations, but the problem is choice. If you don't like it, the game suffers. Unlike previous Bethesda titles, where features like deep quests, role-playing, and vibrant cities complemented each other, settlement building in Fallout 4 isn't a bonus. It's a replacement. Classic towns and complex quests are gone, replaced by procedural radiant tasks and buildable plots, making up almost half of the game. The result is a massive, visually impressive world that feels empty, lifeless, and stripped of the exploration and diversity that fans loved. In short, Fallout 4 stripped away the depth, complexity, and meaningful choices that defined Bethesda's earlier RPGs, replacing them with linear stories, repetitive radiant quests, and an illusion of freedom, leaving longtime fans frustrated, despite its massive polished world. But Fallout 4 still has a huge fan base. Why? Because simplicity encourages creativity. Take Minecraft, a basic procedurally generated grid with no plot, yet it gives players freedom to build their own worlds, tell their own stories. Fallout 4's stripped down systems did the same. The modding community thrived, turning a bad RPG into a canvas for incredible content. Unlike linear, tightly scripted games like Witcher 3, Fallout 4's simplicity allowed mods like Fallout London to add taxis, ladders, deep factions, and much more. This would never happen in a more rigid, complex game. Bethesda's decision to simplify Fallout 4 made it a hit with the mod community, and even today, the game still lives on thanks to the modders. Starfield tried a similar approach, but its world and popularity didn't support the same modding success, highlighting the downside of oversimplifying a game. Even with mods transforming the game into something richer, the vanilla Fallout 4 experience remains shallow and unsatisfying for those seeking a true RPG. Mods can patch the gaps, but they don't change the fact that the original design stripped away the systems and complexity that fans loved. So, how does Fallout 4 hold up today in 2025? Well, it depends. Vanilla, it feels very dated. It's open world empty, movement too quick, and combat lacks weight, falling far behind modern RPGs like Cyberpunk, Kingdom Come Deliverance, or Baldur's Gate 3. But with mods, it transforms. The world fills with content, combat and movement can be tuned, and the experience becomes much richer. Bethesda's choice to simplify for modding worked in that sense, but it also left them trailing behind their competitors, as Starfield clearly showed. So, what went wrong with Fallout 4? Well, it wasn't an RPG. It stripped away the systems, choices, and moral complexity that made earlier Fallout and Bethesda RPGs so compelling. Combat, progression, factions, quests, and dialogue were all simplified, creating a polished yet shallow world. Depth was traded for accessibility, giving the illusion of freedom without meaningful consequences, while repetitive Radiant quests replaced handcrafted content. Yet this simplicity also created a canvas for creativity, fueling a thriving modding community and keeping the game alive. Fallout 4 isn't a bad game. It's just a fundamentally different kind of experience, one that disappointed longtime fans looking for a true RPG, while simultaneously paving the way for others to remake it into something better. Of course, not everyone cares about deep RPG systems or branching narratives. Plenty of players come to Fallout 4 for its action, exploration, settlement building, and creative freedom, and in those areas, the game absolutely shines. It didn't earn a 9.5 from IGN because it was a bad game, and it hasn't kept a massive player base for nearly a decade because it sucks. Fallout 4 is beloved, and I enjoyed it too. It is still one of the best open world games ever made, and I still play it today. This video isn't about bashing the game or its fans, it's about explaining why the community has mixed feelings about it. But I accept RPG fans like myself are no longer the target audience. Bethesda have moved on to providing larger open worlds with more simplified mechanics to appeal to a larger different audience, and will most likely continue to do so. Meanwhile, true RPG fans like myself need to accept this and move on to titles that provide that old Bethesda magic like Kingdom Come Deliverance or Witcher 3. It's not that Fallout 4 is an inherently bad game, it's just a different game to the one that the fans wanted. And that's okay. A lot of people love Fallout 4 and its settlement building features. It's just a different game for a different audience. This is why many people like myself say it was the first Bethesda title that turned them away. It's not that the game is awful, just that it's no longer the type of game they want. Longtime Bethesda and Fallout fans wanted an RPG that built on their previous titles, but instead they got an action shooter and settlement building game. As one audience turned away, a new audience came in. This is why Fallout 4 divides so many fans. Anyway, that about wraps this one up, but what do you guys think? Do you think Fallout 4 was a good game? Do you feel like it wasn't a good game at all? And what do you think Fallout 5 will end up looking like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Av out.